The screeching of tires against wet asphalt pierced the morning air as Maya's delivery scooter slid helplessly toward the gleaming black Tesla. Time seemed to slow as she watched her entire life flash before her eyes, not because she feared death, but because she knew the repair costs would certainly kill her. The small package of pastries meant for the office building across the street suddenly felt like a ticking bomb in her delivery bag. What Maya didn't know was that this accident would change her life forever, setting in motion events she could never have imagined. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that will brighten your day. Your support means everything to us. Maya's hands trembled as she dismounted her battered scooter. Rain soaked through her uniform, plastering her dark curls against her forehead as she approached the luxury vehicle. A small dent marred its otherwise perfect exterior, small to some, but catastrophic to someone living paycheck to paycheck. She was already 2 months behind on rent, working 3 jobs just to stay afloat and support her younger brother through college. "I'm so sorry," she called out, her voice barely audible over the rain. "I'll pay for everything, I promise." The car door opened, and a man stepped out. Maya expected anger, perhaps even threats of legal action. Instead, she was met with the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever seen, belonging to a tall figure in an impeccably tailored suit. Something in those eyes made her breath catch, not intimidation, but something else entirely. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his deep voice laced with genuine concern rather than the rage she anticipated. This was how Maya Alvarez, a 26-year-old delivery driver drowning in student debt, met Ethan Blackwood, the 34-year-old CEO of Blackwood Enterprises, one of the city's largest technology companies. What she couldn't possibly know was that Ethan, who had spent his morning reviewing merger documents and firing his 5th assistant this month, had been having the worst day of his career until he looked up and saw her apologetic brown eyes. "I'm fine," Maya responded, fighting to keep her voice steady. "But your car?" "It's just a car," Ethan replied with a dismissive wave. "Cars can be fixed." Maya blinked in confusion. The repair would cost her at least 3 months' salary, but this stranger seemed completely unconcerned. She fumbled in her soaked messenger bag for her insurance information, dropping her phone in a puddle in the process. "Great," she muttered, fishing it out and wiping it on her already drenched uniform. "Just perfect." A smile tugged at the corner of Ethan's mouth as he watched her. There was something refreshingly real about this woman, a stark contrast to the polished, calculated people he surrounded himself with daily. "Let me help," he offered, reaching for her phone. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment, neither moved. Later, Ethan would recall this as the moment something shifted in his carefully ordered world. "I'm late for a delivery," Maya said, breaking the strange tension between them. "The Jensen office building, they ordered breakfast pastries, and they're probably soggy by now." "That's my building," Ethan replied, his expression unreadable. "Why don't I drive you there? We can sort this out inside, away from the rain." Maya hesitated. Getting into a car with a stranger went against everything she'd been taught, but there was something trustworthy about this man despite his obvious wealth and power. Plus, she really needed to complete this delivery, she couldn't afford to lose this job too. "What about my scooter?" she asked, glancing at the dented vehicle. "I'll have someone take care of it." Ethan was already on his phone, sending a quick text. "It'll be fixed and returned to you by the end of the day." Maya had no idea that the man standing before her was worth billions, that he had built his company from the ground up after dropping out of MIT, or that he was known throughout the business world for his brilliant mind and cold demeanor. All she knew was that his unexpected kindness was making her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with the accident. The drive to the building took less than 5 minutes, but it changed everything. Maya clutched her delivery bag on her lap, acutely aware of her dripping clothes against the car's leather interior. "I'm Maya, by the way," she said, desperate to break the silence. "Ethan," he replied, offering no last name. He navigated through traffic with ease, occasionally glancing at her with an intensity that made her cheeks warm despite her wet clothes. What Maya didn't realize was that Ethan Blackwood, who had dated supermodels and been linked to the daughters of foreign dignitaries, found himself completely captivated by this delivery girl with the determined gaze and genuine smile. Something about her reminded him of himself before money and power had changed everything, when passion and dreams were what drove him. As they pulled into the private parking beneath the Jensen building, Maya's eyes widened. "Wait, you have access to the executive garage?" she asked, suddenly suspicious. Ethan's lips twitched with amusement. "I work here." Only when they entered through a private elevator, with security guards nodding respectfully as Ethan passed, did Maya begin to understand that this wasn't just any employee. Her suspicion was confirmed when the elevator opened directly into a massive corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "You're not just some guy who works here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper as realization dawned. "No," Ethan agreed, watching her reaction carefully. "I'm not just some guy." When Maya learned that she had crashed into the car belonging to Ethan Blackwood, the Ethan Blackwood whose face had been on the cover of Business Insider just last month, she nearly fainted. This was the man whose technology company had revolutionized renewable energy storage. The man whose net worth could probably buy her entire apartment building without making a dent in his bank account. "I should go," she said quickly, setting the pastry box on a nearby table. "I'm sorry again about your car. If you send me the repair bill, I'll figure something out." "Have coffee with me," Ethan said suddenly, the word surprising even himself. Maya froze. "Excuse me?" "Coffee," he repeated, more confidently this time. "Or tea, if you prefer. Just 1 cup." "Why would you want to have coffee with me?" Maya asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Ethan considered her question. In his world, people rarely asked for his motivations, they simply said yes. But Maya wasn't from his world, and her directness was refreshing. "Because in the 10 minutes since you crashed into my car, you've been more real than anyone I've talked to in years," he answered honestly. "And I'd like to continue our conversation." This was how it began: an accident in the rain, a dented luxury car, and two people from entirely different worlds finding an unexpected connection. Neither knew that this chance meeting would lead them through a journey of prejudice, family disapproval, corporate intrigue, and the kind of love that transforms not just two people, but everyone around them. Maya accepted that cup of coffee, sitting awkwardly in her damp delivery uniform across from one of the most powerful men in the city. She was certain this would be the end of their strange encounter, a bizarre story to tell her roommates later. She had no way of knowing that Ethan had already decided he needed to see her again, that something about her had awakened feelings he thought long buried under years of corporate ambition. As days turned into weeks and stolen coffee dates turned into proper dinners, Maya found herself falling for the man behind the imposing CEO facade. Beneath his cool exterior was someone who worked tirelessly because he believed his technology could help solve the climate crisis, someone who had known poverty before success, someone who still called his mother every Sunday without fail. For Ethan, Maya was a breath of fresh air, someone who challenged him, who wasn't impressed by his wealth, who made him laugh for the first time in years. She showed him parts of the city he'd never seen despite having lived there all his life: hole-in-the-wall restaurants with the best food he'd ever tasted, community gardens where she volunteered on weekends, the shelter where she'd adopted her one-eyed cat. But their growing relationship faced obstacles neither had anticipated. Ethan's board members and family questioned his judgment, suggesting Maya was after his money. Her friends warned her that men like Ethan didn't seriously date women like her, that she was setting herself up for heartbreak. "He lives in a different world," her roommate Zoe warned one night after Maya returned from a date where Ethan had closed down an entire restaurant just for them. "People like him don't end up with people like us." "Maybe both our worlds could use some changing," Maya had replied, though doubt had begun to creep into her heart. The whispers grew louder when photos of them appeared in the tabloids, with unflattering headlines questioning Maya's motives and background. Her past, including the father who had abandoned their family and her mother's struggle with addiction, became public fodder, twisted into a narrative that painted her as a gold digger with a tragic backstory. Ethan's ex-fiancée, Caroline, a woman from a wealthy family his parents had always approved of, re-entered the picture, making it clear she wanted him back. The pressure from his family to end his inappropriate dalliance and return to someone suitable intensified, especially with an important merger on the horizon. "My personal life has nothing to do with this deal," Ethan argued during a tense board meeting. "Everything you do reflects on this company," his father, still the chairman of the board, countered. "Your judgment is being questioned, son." The real test came when Maya lost her apartment after her building was purchased by a development company, ironically, a subsidiary of Blackwood Enterprises, though Ethan had known nothing about the acquisition. The press had a field day, accusing him of orchestrating the situation to make Maya dependent on him. When Ethan offered to help, Maya refused. "I can't be the woman who lives off her rich boyfriend," she insisted, her pride and independence being qualities that had drawn him to her in the first place. Instead, she moved in with her brother, taking on extra delivery shifts to help with his tuition payments. Their relationship reached a breaking point when Ethan, trying to help without Maya knowing, paid off her brother's tuition anonymously. When she discovered his interference, their argument shook the foundation of their relationship. "You had no right," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "You think you can just throw money at problems to make them go away, but my life isn't a problem to be fixed, Ethan." "I was trying to help," he insisted, frustration evident in his voice. "Why is that so wrong?" "Because it wasn't your decision to make," she replied. "Because you didn't even talk to me about it. Because it makes me feel like a charity case, not a partner." The word partner hung between them. Was that what they were? Could they be true partners when their lives were so different? Their separation lasted 3 agonizing weeks, the longest 3 weeks of Ethan's life. He threw himself into work, finalizing the merger his father had been pushing for, but found no satisfaction in the business success. His penthouse felt emptier than ever without Maya's laughter filling the spaces. It was during this time that Ethan realized money and power meant nothing without someone to share his life with, specifically, without Maya. She had shown him a different way of seeing the world, had reminded him why he'd started his company in the first place, to make a difference, not just a profit. For Maya, the weeks without Ethan were equally difficult. She missed him with an intensity that surprised her, but her pride kept her from reaching out. It was her brother who finally intervened. "You know," he said one evening as they ate instant ramen in their small shared apartment, "for someone who talks about seeing beyond appearances, you're being pretty hypocritical." "What's that supposed to mean?" Maya asked defensively. "You're judging Ethan for being rich the same way his family judges you for not being rich," her brother pointed out. "You won't let him help because of your pride, but you'd help him in a heartbeat if positions were reversed." His words struck home, forcing Maya to confront her own prejudices. She had been so afraid of being seen as after Ethan's money that she'd refused to let him express his generosity, a fundamental part of who he was. Meanwhile, Ethan was having his own epiphany during a conversation with his mother, the one family member who had always seen beyond status and wealth. "You know," his mother said during their weekly Sunday call, "your father wasn't always the man he is now. When I met him, he was working 2 jobs to put himself through business school." "Dad?" Ethan couldn't hide his surprise. His father had always seemed the epitome of old money and privilege. "People change," she continued. "Success changed him. Don't let it change you, Ethan. Don't lose the one person who reminds you of who you really are." The merger was finalized on a rainy Thursday, ironically similar to the day he'd met Maya. Standing in the boardroom, accepting congratulations from executives and shareholders, Ethan realized none of it mattered without her. He excused himself from the celebration, ignored his father's protests, and drove through the pouring rain to the university where he knew Maya would be making a delivery. He found her just as she was leaving the campus coffee shop, her delivery bag slung over her shoulder, hood pulled up against the rain. When she saw him standing there, soaked and without an umbrella, her heart skipped. "I was wrong," Ethan said without preamble, rain dripping from his hair onto his expensive suit. "I shouldn't have made decisions for you. But Maya, I want to make decisions with you, for the rest of our lives." "Ethan," she began, but he continued. "I love you," he said, the words he'd never said to anyone else. "I love your strength, your kindness, the way you see the world. I love that you care more about people than things. I love that you make me want to be better." Maya stepped closer, her own eyes filling with tears that mingled with the rain. "I love you too," she admitted. "And I was wrong too. I was so afraid of being seen as after your money that I wouldn't let you be generous, which is one of the things I love most about you." Their kiss, there in the rain on a university campus with students hurrying past, was a promise, a commitment to build a bridge between their worlds rather than trying to exist solely in one or the other. 1 year later, Maya stood in the community center she and Ethan had founded together, watching as local students presented their science projects. The center, funded by Blackwood Enterprises but run largely by community volunteers, provided educational resources, job training, and support for families in the neighborhood where Maya had grown up. She felt Ethan's arm slip around her waist, and leaned into his embrace. He no longer looked like the cold, untouchable CEO she'd crashed into that rainy morning. There was warmth in his eyes now, a relaxed set to his shoulders that hadn't been there before. "Happy?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Maya glanced down at the simple engagement ring on her finger, the one he'd insisted on letting her help choose, understanding now that partnership meant making decisions together. "Very," she replied. Their journey hadn't been easy. Ethan's father still struggled to accept their relationship, though his mother had become Maya's strongest ally. The press still occasionally published stories questioning their compatibility, though these had decreased as Maya's community work gained recognition in its own right. What none of the skeptics understood was that Maya and Ethan weren't just from different worlds, they were creating a new one together. She had helped him reconnect with the idealistic young man who wanted to change the world through innovation. He had given her the platform to make a difference on a scale she'd never imagined possible. As they walked among the students, stopping to admire projects and offer encouragement, Maya caught sight of her scooter parked outside, now repaired but kept as a reminder of how their story began. Some might have seen it as a symbol of the distance between their worlds, but to Maya and Ethan, it represented something else entirely: the beautiful accidents that change our lives, the collisions that break down barriers and open hearts, the unexpected moments that lead us exactly where we need to be. Because sometimes, the wrong turn leads you to exactly the right place. And sometimes, a dented car leads to an unbreakable love. If you enjoyed this story of love that bridges worlds and sees beyond appearances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of genuine connection in an increasingly divided world.